Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 425 show. My name is Jorge Lopez, and I'm a senior product manager in the Identity and Network Access Customer Experience team. Today, I have the pleasure of sharing this episode with an amazing product manager as well, Grace speaking. Grace, you want to do a quick intro?
Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Picking, and I also have the pleasure of being in the same team as Jorge. And I'm really excited to share with you this month's updates and everything exciting in Microsoft Entra ID.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. Today's show will be our first edition of a series of episodes called What's New in Microsoft Entra ID. Today, we'll do the August 2023 edition. We will try to do this every month from now on. So
let's kick it off with our first announcements today. So, as I mentioned, Azure AD, just like Prince, has had a name change. So hot off the press, we're kicking off this financial year with a bang. So Microsoft has their financial year running from July to July. So probably some of you would have seen that, it's just the name that's changed. All of the capabilities that you're familiar with are still right here, and we will continue to add functionality over time. So a lot of you, eagle-eyed viewers, consumers, users, enterprise experts have probably guessed that this was coming, that we're no longer Azure Active Directory, but it kind of makes sense. So I've been seeing a lot of the videos from MVPs, a lot of the responses, and the kind of almost reaction videos like on TikTok for this name change. And it does make sense, right? It's not, Azure AD is not AD in Azure. It's so much more. And so this just kind of goes in line with that. So now we've got our amazing product name as Microsoft Entra. So the renaming has begun and will be rolling out over the next few months. And you'll see various names change. But in terms of your functionality, you as a customer, there's nothing that you need to do. So the key things to point out is Azure Active Directory is now Microsoft Entra ID. Identity protection is now Microsoft Entra Identity Protection. Identity governance is, can you guess? Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Microsoft Workload Identities is now Microsoft Entra Workload Identities. And just to wrap it up, External Identities is now Microsoft Entra External Identities. But just to make it clear, Azure AD B2C, the name will remain the same. So you'll start to see these come through in the portals over the next month. If you were locked into our reimagined secure access event on July the 11th, you would have seen a lot of these spoke about in detail. So yeah, that's the headline really. Login URLs and APIs and MSAL are going to stay the same as your developer experience and tooling is. So yeah, just product name change, no action needed, just Control F and replace in all of your documentation. No big ask. We've got to do it as well. So what else have we got? So we had an amazing show last month on the 425 show, all about identity governance. And we're proud to now go GA with our latest and greatest identity governance dashboard as part of the Microsoft Entra ID Governance family. So this allows you to discover usage information about various identity governance and admin features configured in a tenant, and it then gives you an at-glance view of your current state of identity governance with actionable buttons and quickly accessible links to documentation. And if you want to have a look at that deep dive, we'll put the link in the comments or various things, but it's definitely worth having a look at that and checking out the new portal in portal.azure.com. /Microsoft_AAD_ERM/dashboard blade. But we'll put the quick link in to save you time. We also have a great announcement. So this is kind of part of the section where I talk about all of the things in ID governance, Microsoft Entra ID governance that has gone GA. So we've got lifecycle workflows or LCW. So we announced that this is GA, and we actually first released Lifecycle Workflows in its first iteration at Ignite 2022. That's when it went public preview. So we're really excited to be able to show these enhancements and improvements we've made since public preview. This kind of helps you with a tale that, I don't know about you, Jorge, but it's as old as time. So customers the world over, they've created these custom manual processes to connect systems to try and manage JML, and it's had limited success with usually large management overhead and not necessarily 100% effectiveness, definitely not 100% efficiency.
And as well, especially on the compliance part, and sorry to interrupt, right? But because there's a lot of organizations that need to meet certain regulations and compliance for, multiple requirements. So this is definitely going to help those customers to accomplish that.
Yeah. And it is a critical part of security posture as well. So if it's managed correctly, it can have a really good impact on a user's productivity, but also is another string to your bow. We see people get given birthright access when they join, and it's never reviewed, removed, or changed, and potentially all the way through their different roles and departments. Even sometimes after they leave, they've still got access. So this workflow kind of allows you to automate that whole identity lifecycle management tasks for your Microsoft Entra ID users. So it's a really easy to set up workflow. We have out-of-the-box actions for onboarding and offboarding for your employees. So if you haven't come across this, make sure you have a look at our deep dive on the 425 show, have a look at our documentation, and have a think about where this may be applicable in your organization, and also which stakeholders you'd engage. So something like this is typically for you to make sure that you engage with HR, with talent acquisition, with ops, with user communication, even your branding teams potentially. Yeah, love to hear from you if you've got any questions on this or any examples of where you can see it kind of working, even if it just removes like one manual form. Can you imagine how many hours that's saved or calls to the help desk?
Yep, and just to add a little bit on top of that we did a session before about identity governance. So feel free to, find the previous show in our channels if you want to know more about the identity governance stuff.
Yeah, good shout out. Thank you. It is at aka.ms/425show/Entra IDG/overview. It's in the link here on screen. Next up, we have GA for access reviews for inactive users. When I first started working in identity, this was one of the biggest problems that we saw. So stale accounts, accounts that haven't been active for a specific period of time, we can now look at them and we can look at interactive and non-interactive sign-in activities, which is really important. And inactive using scoping provides a comprehensive view of user activity, and admins can set specific durations such as 30, 60, 90 days to determine inactivity. So that depends on, you may have an account or a user that you may see them go on sabbatical for like 3 months, so therefore inactivity needs to be reviewed at 90 days. Or if you've got a organization, I see this particularly in companies that do media marketing and branding, is their turnover of staff is actually extremely high, so 90 may be way too long. You definitely want to look at inactivity at a shorter period of time to make sure they're removed from your processes. So you want to really, using access reviews, set up the recurring review for inactive users in a critical group. So you want to set up that recurrent view of the audit team group, for example, who have not signed into applications in Microsoft Entra ID, both interactively and non-interactively for say 30 days. And you create that new access review, you choose the group, and then all users in the group, and you get the new option for inactive users, and you choose your threshold.
Chris, there is a very good question coming from one of our platforms, which is, what about all users? What about break glass accounts? Do we want to really do these type of inactive users access reviews for all of the accounts in the tenant? Since, I guess that's where the question comes from, right? Break glass accounts are not something that you will use regularly.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So hopefully you could see here on the screen, right, that you can choose specific groups. So we would recommend that you should be aware of which your break glass accounts are. If you don't, then it's a concern, because you should be auditing and monitor them very, very like with a fine-tooth comb, with a big magnifying glass. Is you can select specific groups to apply this to. So you may want to have an audit group, which you choose to be all your users that you mark as, say, for lack of a better word, human identities. Because we know from experience that of 100% of identities in a tenant, they're not all 100% unique human relationship identities. There's break glass accounts, as you mentioned, secondary admin accounts. There's accounts that may unfortunately be used for things like running scripts, which hopefully are protected in other ways, but depending on what batch they may be running, they may be inactive for 90 days. So yeah, you could always, scope it that way, and we'd recommend you do that as well. And you can also start with a pilot group, right, with access reviews. You can scope them to a smaller group, see how you get on for a phased rollout. So next up for access reviews, we've got machine learning ML-based recommendations on user to group affiliation. I'm a huge fan of this. Obviously, ML, AI, buzzword of the century. I don't know what I hear more in a day, ML or zero trust in the area of work that I do, but it makes it quicker and more accurate for your group association decisions. So you want your reviewers to be efficient during your access certification campaigns. And when creating those access reviews, you select the user to group affiliation as part of enabling the reviewer decisions. And so this allows it to be more easy to use, more accurate. And it uses what's referred to as like a scoring mechanism. So that looks at where a specific user is in the org structure and how far away the other person is from them in terms of association for the group. And that is ultimately the basis of the affiliation and how we do the scoring. So the reviewer now will see the recommendation in My Access when going through the access reviews, and it helps them flag potential candidates for closer scrutiny before a decision is made to accept or deny access, thereby, helping take the mental load off of things like attestation fatigue and ensure that the sensitive resources are secured.
How many times have we seen administrators going through some of the reviews of these organizations and groups and see that one name that doesn't make sense, right? It's like, why this person is on this group? This is going to be amazing using these machine learning capabilities to determine that on an access review.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And I think it's going to be not just a good kind of catch-all, but also help people really think about that person rather than just fear, oh, you know what, they probably do need it, so I'll just say yes. It's like, well, no, think about it. Should that person have access? Because potentially the score is very low. Are they just trying their luck? Have they incorrectly chosen to request access, or is it something more malicious? Next up for Entra ID Governance in GA, we've got Entitlement Management custom extensions to Logic Apps. So this extends the access lifecycle with specific processes and business logic when access is requested or about to expire. So you can create tickets for manual access provisioning or disconnected systems and custom notifications, automate additional access related configuration in your business apps, or generate complex governance, risk and compliance checks for more advanced scenarios. So what's really cool about this is let me actually do a step back. So Azure Logic Apps, we've seen increase in usage in large enterprise, and they are really, really valuable. And so we can now use them to automate these custom workflows and connect apps and services in one place. So users can integrate Logic Apps with Entitlement Management to broaden their governance workflows beyond the core entitlement use cases. So these Logic Apps can be triggered to run in accordance with Entitlement Management use cases, such as when an access package is granted or requested. So let's think about an admin could create a link to a custom Logic App to an Entitlement Management, so that when a user requests an access package, a Logic App is triggered that ensures the user is also assigned certain characteristics in a third-party SaaS app like, I don't know, Salesforce, or is sent a custom email maybe. And so Entitlement Management use cases that can be integrated with Logic Apps include quite a few. So there are triggers that are associated with an access package that can launch the custom extensions in Logic Apps. So that's when an access package request is created, when a request is approved, when an access package assignment is granted, when an access package assignment is removed, 14 days before an access package assignment auto expires, and 1 day before an access package assignment auto expires. So these triggers to Logic Apps are controlled in a tab within the access package policies called rules. And also custom extensions tab on the catalog page shows all added Logic Apps extensions for a given catalog. And we've got a load of great information if you are leveraging Logic Apps or you want to learn more. I will make sure that the link is in the comments about how to explore this and where to find it in your Azure portal. I think I can see a comment, but it's too small. So
Yeah, it's a great comment, by the way, which I believe that's probably the reason why we decided to post it here, because it's the perfect example why you would use Logic App and these custom extensions options for entitlement management and access packages, right? So makes everything so much extendable. And the example that Bolt.io here is giving is that you can send a Teams message to the approver. So if they're not watching their email, waiting for an approval for an access package or something, you can send a Teams message directly to the approver using this extensibility for the feature.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I think it was Bolt, so shout out Bolt. Yeah, so it's really exciting, highly customizable, provides that full end-to-end view, and you're in control because it's your Logic App, right? So yeah, let us know if you got any questions or if you want us to do a follow-up show about how to configure this or some examples of where we've seen it in our customer base. Yeah, give us a shout out, drop us a comment, let us know. Next up, one of the features very close to my heart, which is Microsoft Entra Verified ID. We've now gone GA with require Microsoft Entra Verified ID from specific issuers for entitlement management. It's like the crossover of the century for me. I'm overly gassed about it, as you can tell. So as an access package manager, you can require that requesters present a verified ID containing credentials from a trusted issuer. So approvers can then quickly view if a user's verifiable credentials were valid at the time that the user presented their credentials and submitted the access package request. So sometimes you might want users to present additional identity proofs during the request process, such as, I don't know, training certificates, work authorization, even citizenship status, for example. So if you're an access package manager, you can actually require that requesters present a verified ID containing those credentials from a trusted issuer. And then the approver can then quickly view if the user's verified credentials were validated at the time and that the user presented their credentials and submitted the access package request. So it's really exciting in terms of taking it to the next level, like walking, running, sprinting. This is like almost going to the moon in terms of authorization, because this is the real deal. Decentralized identities, it brings the power back to you as the owner and also provides so much great integration between you as an organization and those trusted issuers. And yeah, I love to see it. It's great. Have a think about, for example, if you're in construction, I know when people turn up to work sites, obviously I haven't done a day's manual labor in my life, apart from working a bar once, so I don't really know. But I know that when my friends that do turn up to building sites and stuff, they have to show like all of these different pieces of paper that they can work at heights and with, I don't know. This is how little I know about manual labor. I'm so much better at computers. I don't know, fire safety regulations, they have to wear a hard hat, all of these things that are completely beyond me because you would never put me anywhere near large, heavy machinery, is now you could theoretically use verified IDs alongside entitlement management to have somebody show up with their smartphone integrated with the Authenticator app for verified ID, have it all there, show it all in the app, seamless, lovely jubbly. You've got a secure work site and it's completely auditable and less paper as well, so better for the environment. Next up, we've got assigning access automatically with no requests required. So this is, again, we're still in GA. I've tried to make it intuitive. If the background is grey, that means it's GA, to remind me. If it's yellow, it's public preview. So this enables you to automate processes for access lifecycle management by assigning access to users based on their attributes coming from your HR system or other systems without the need of access requests or administration interaction. So you can use rules to determine access package assignment based on any user property in Azure AD. Also, in entitlement management, an access package can have multiple policies, and each policy establishes how users get an assignment to the access package and for how long. So as an admin, you can establish a policy for automatic assignment by supplying a membership rule that entitlement management will follow to create and also remove assignments automatically. So if you think about if you've used dynamic groups before. I think from my perspective, Jorge, this is kind of, it's the same sort of thing. And I think probably under the hood, I need to double check with engineering. It uses, dynamic membership rules and dynamic engines, so that when you create an automatic assignment policy, user attributes are evaluated for matches with the policy's membership rules. And of course, we both know that that's great because it's not flat, it's real time. And as those attributes change for a user, those automatic assignment policy rules in the access package are processed for membership changes.
Yep, and you hit the nail on that, because if you have been working with this type of dynamic groups before, you're going to be super familiar with, because it's the same interface as Gary mentioned. So as we expand on the properties and the attributes that you can use for dynamic groups, you can expand this as well on the automatic assignments, which is what we also know like birthright assignments, right? Just because you don't want to have a certain process for approval of the access packages. If you are more used to the fact that somebody will get certain type of access based on the department that they belong to, this is what is going to help you do that.
Yeah, and it is worth noting, right, this dynamic kind of membership and access is not magic. You do actually have to have the attribute on the user account, which sometimes could be the first hurdle. So you need to have that available for Microsoft Entra ID to actually build on the dynamic membership rule. So you can have a look at our supporting documentation, but there is a list of supported properties that includes extension attributes and custom attributes. And that could be things from HR, like success factors, on-prem attributes that you synced, or anything the user account that you can query through Graph. So it is important to note that at the minute, Entitlement Management will automatically create behind the scenes a dynamic security group corresponding to each policy in order to evaluate the users in scope. So the group should not be modified except by Entitlement Management itself. And this group may also be modified or deleted automatically by Entitlement Management. So don't use this group for other applications or scenarios.
And there is a great comment from Bolt, and shout out to Bolt, who's been providing a lot of these great insights. And I think it's a good question. So because it uses kind of like the same logic and engine, right, from the dynamic groups. Is it possible? I honestly, I don't know if it's possible that you can do maybe time-based dynamic groups that are based on something on the attributes like the employee hire date or employee date time, leave date time, I believe is the name of the attribute, which I'm not sure if we have those attributes here yet, but it's a good point. So I don't know if you know, Grace.
You know what? I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest, and I'd hate to send somebody down the rabbit hole. But I would love to hear if somebody put in the comments if you've tried this out and you know that property is available on our approved attributes, or if one of my very handy producers in the back of house would mind having a quick search on Bing. Please let me know. We'd love to hear from you. But that's the idea, right? You've got the idea there, Bolt, is that you do something that you want to only make sure a user can access through access requests when they have that attribute and it's populated. Cool. So first shout out when I'm about to pronounce this. I have never said this word out loud before. Favicon? Favicon? I don't know. Feel free to correct me, but I've learned a new word. So that is actually the name of the icon that appears in the toolbar when you're in a tab for a website. And the reason I know that now is because we've just got GA with enhanced company branding for sign-in experience. So that means that you can add custom branding as long as you have Azure AD P1, P2, or Office 365. So you can create a custom look and feel for users for both their Microsoft Entra ID. So that means if you're connecting an app, as you should be through something like CA, and Microsoft 365 sign-in experiences. So you can customize not just the sign-in experience, also self-service password reset, which is huge, the footer, hyperlinks, and the browser icons. So you can style sign-in experiences by putting custom CSS and header and footers by using one of our predefined templates. And of course, all branding is optional. And if you don't set it, the default will apply. And that's the same for all branding. I would also note, as somebody who once upon a time wanted to be a graphic designer, please work with your branding department on this to make sure that you have the best images that you can. There is some specific requirements for things like size and quality for when you're uploading pictures behind the scenes in the Azure portal to support this feature. So please work with branding or your comms team to make sure that you've got exactly the branding that they want, because it's also important to make sure that they're engaged, because if you have a change in branding or I don't know, you need to rebrand, you can also do this through the graph. So if, for example, for a specific internal launch event or changing your recommendations for SSPR, you can do that through the graph. And again, you would want to make sure that you're engaged with your branding team and comms team and your help desk to make sure that it's the latest and greatest information. Next up, I think I need to speed up. Oh my gosh, it's 1:30 and I am not halfway through. So we've got auth methods reporting API. Amazing, love an API. So we've got the new authentication methods activity dashboard. Enables admins to monitor authentication method registration and use across their organization. So this reporting capability provides you with the means to understand what methods are being registered and how they're being used through the API. So as you could see from my, then I'll rewind my very quick video, is you can see things like, is SSPR registered? Is SSPR enabled, capable, MFA registered, MFA capable? I'm hoping they're both true. Is passwordless capable? Also hoping that says true. But you can use things like that and have a look at your last updated date time. And, you know, APIs are great. Love them. So this method supports the filter OData query parameters to help customize the response. So you can apply that filter on one or more of the following properties for user registration details. All of the information is available in our graph documentation. And you can actually, if you've not played around with graph before, it's definitely worth having a look at. As someone who loved PowerShell, and now I love graph. So you can have a look at the Graph Explorer. You don't have to be a dev to start with, just to run some sample queries. So yeah, have a look at this one. It's great fun. Also something, it's like, I'm very excited about all these announcements, but they are really cool, right? So another thing that's very close to my heart, and Jorge, I'll ask you, are you part of the Mac sphere? Are you an Apple user, or are you a staunch Android and Windows PC follower?
iOS, I tried to switch to Android at some point, but it failed, kind of.
So for those of you that are part of the kind of Apple sphere, Apple gang, you've been locked in. This update means that you can now use FIDO2 security keys to sign into Microsoft Entra ID federated applications on iOS and macOS web browsers. So FIDO2 security keys, if you haven't come across them, you should read up on them, but they provide strong phishing resistant authentication protected by either a biometric factor, fingerprint, or PIN. So this can be especially useful for people that are highly regulated. If you're an org that may work in FSI or government space, there's a lot of strict compliance requirements that may say you have to have FIDO2, especially if you need to comply with things like the Executive Order 14028, if my notes are accurate, so that we improve cybersecurity across the board because they require things like phishing resistance authentication. So they come in all different form factors. And I think the great thing about this is now that we've got macOS and iOS integration in the browsers, it's just going to be so seamless. And if you can't use your authenticator app for any reason, whether it's because you don't have a work phone, you don't want to download the app, or you're in a place where you actually can't do it, or you're required to use phish-resistant credentials in the form of a FIDO2 token, then this is for you. So yeah, big fan if you've got macOS in your estate or iOS, and you're starting to think, or you're on your passwordless journey, definitely one for you to have a look at. And this is the experience in the browser. So you'll go to sign in, you'll choose sign in with security keys, you'll select the second option, and then you'll use your security key. And then depending on if it's, you know, NFC, for example, or if it's USB-C, not USB-C, bad Mac user, Lightning or whatever, then you can plug it in, and then, yeah, jobs are good. Entitlement management. It's now got support and conditional access. Yay! I think I need to get myself like a soundboard so I can make really weird noises like they do on the radio. So with Microsoft Entra ID Governance, you can effectively manage your organization's security and identity governance needs and boost employee productivity by implementing appropriate processes and enhancing visibility. So this empowers you with the ability to guarantee that the right people have the right access to the right resources. So with this GA announcement, you can go through identity governance to strengthen your identity governance posture and include that in your CA policy. So it better sets you up for self-service, for onboarding. It also is now targetable very easily for both inclusion and exclusion. And by enabling this for entitlement management and or my access, your organization is better set up to basically reduce a lot of the management overhead of requesting things through entitlement management, but also better protect it, especially if you're doing things like remote onboarding. You can protect that in the wonderful thing that is conditional access. Recommendation to migrate ADAL apps to MSAL. It's exactly what it says on the tin. So we're now GA with this because ADAL is retired, sadly, on June the 30th. So this recommendation helps you identify apps using the legacy ADAL via the Azure portal. So you can start by setting this up for just having a look, basically. So it's the first step to migrating your apps. You need to know which apps you need to migrate. And so this helps you identify those. So if this is the first you've heard of it or the millionth time you've heard of ADAL sadly being retired, I say sadly, mixed emotions because that's moving on, but we've got MSAL now. Definitely take a look, make sure, even if it's just to check your own homework and give yourself a pat on the back that you have managed to migrate everything, and take a look.
Yep. And just to highlight, we also did a show about the migration from ADAL to MSAL in some of our previous 425 shows. So if you visit the link that is on the screen right now, you should be able to find it.
Awesome, thank you. So revoking previously granted tenant-wide positions, another one that's very aptly named. So this enables you to revoke an application's permissions that have been granted for the entire organization through admin consent. So you can revoke an app's permissions that have been granted across the entire org. And it's very simple to do. You just have to go to the Azure portal, go to Azure Active Directory, now Microsoft Entra ID, then select Enterprise Apps, select the application that you want to restrict access to, select permissions listed in the admin consent tab apply to the entire org, choose the permissions you would like to remove, select the control, click the other screens to make sure that that's what you want to do, and then you can restrict it. You need to give a reason if you want to for why you want to review the permissions, and then you're good. So it's worth having a look at. Over permissioning is one of the biggest things that we see in organizations. It's usually one of two things. People didn't know better. They didn't know that this was a thing, or they just did the easiest thing. Developers, not to put developers into disrepute, sometimes take the path of least resistance and will just ask for everything in terms of permissions. So yeah, this is worth having a look at. You can revoke those previously granted tenant-wide permissions if it's one of those two things or anything in between to better protect your users and make sure everything is least privilege. Unfamiliar sign-in properties. So this is something that's calculated in real time. This is part of Microsoft Entra ID protection. So this risk detection type considers past sign-in history to look for anomalous sign-ins. So the system stores information about previous sign-ins and triggers a risk detection when a sign-in occurs with properties that are unfamiliar to the user. So they can include things like IP, ASN, location, device, browser, tenant IP, subnet, and newly created users are actually put in learning mode for a period. So where the unfamiliar sign-in properties risk detection is turned off while our algorithms learn the user's behaviors, the duration is dynamic and depends on how much time it takes the algorithm to actually gather enough information about the user sign-in pattern. So the minimum duration is 5 days. So that's the time when you may not see these, but after that, when learning mode is adjusted as per how much activity we've seen, this is something that you'll start to flag in those risk reports and the risk detections for that user. And it can be detected on both interactive and non-interactive sign-ins when using the decision. So this detection is, you know, it deserves increased scrutiny, I should say, when it's non-interactive due to the risk of token replay attacks, which are rife. And if you select an unfamiliar sign-in property risk, it allows you to see additional information. So you can have a look at a little bit more about that. If you haven't worked with our Entra ID protection before, you may ask, well, what does that risk rating mean? It is a closed box solution, so you will never see exactly why we gave somebody a risk of a certain thing. You know, why did one cause it and it didn't on the other? However, for things like unfamiliar sign-in properties, you can gain more information about why that risk in particular was flagged for the user based on that property.
Great. Before you move on, there's a question about the licensing for the identity governance capability. So just wanted to clarify, yes, this is a new SKU. We encourage you to reach out to your account team. If you are seeing this, you know, if you're not seeing this on your tenant, that means that you don't have the SKU, but you can request a trial, work with your account team to see the options and the pricing and all that.
Awesome, thank you. So 20 minutes to go, and I've got 20 slides to go. Let's see if we can do it. Integration of Microsoft Entra ID protection with Microsoft 365 Defender. Great joining of forces here at Microsoft. So if you're an organization who've deployed Microsoft 365 Defender and Microsoft Defender for Identity, you can get extra value from identity protection signals. So it comes in the form of enhanced correlation with other data from other parts of the organization. And with that, automated investigation and response. So if you're in using those products, Microsoft 365 Defender and Microsoft Defender for Identity, security professionals and admins can make connections to suspicious activities from areas like alerts in Defenders for Identity, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. So this is very much a story of better together. If you know that you're using those two products, make sure you reach out to your SecOps team or whoever it is that owns that to inform them about this, let them know that this is coming, where this is coming from, where these logs are coming from. And so they also may need your support in investigating something that's been flagged to start with, or at the very least, you should make sure that's integrated in part of their incident response or risking reviews for users if Azure AD threat intelligence is detected. Lovely one for you here, nice and easy to consume. Especially if you're an end user, that's the name of the game with this. So we've got a new My Groups experience. This is now GA. So if you haven't used My Groups before, I know if you live and breathe Azure AD and Microsoft Entra ID, you usually spend a lot of your time in the Azure portal or in Graph or wherever, right, in your inbox, not accessing My Groups. However, a lot of your end users may be using My Groups. So it's the end user group managed experience that empowers your admins to delegate group management to the end users, rightly so, because why would you know as an admin if Bob from HR needs to be part of Project X? You wouldn't, you can't be expected to know that. So end users now can manage their group memberships and group life cycles themselves, giving you less work to do. So the new My Groups experience improves navigation for end users. It addresses some of the previous limitations we heard loud and clear about My Groups and aligns with other end user experiences, even just in terms of the branding. You can see their beautiful integration with the M365 suite bar. So it's available now at myaccount.microsoft.com/groups. Also got a new search experience in My Access. You'll see that it's now aligned as well with the M365 suite bar. So as dedicated as we are to expanding Microsoft Entra's end-to-end capabilities for admin, we're equally committed to ensuring secure access remains a breeze for your valued end users, even though sometimes, I know, they challenge our last nerve. As part of our commitment for end user experience and to make it as smooth and effortless, I won't say idiot-proof, as possible, we've made significant improvements to the My Access search functionality. So now you just can search and find your access packages more effectively. We've also added a resources column that shows users the resources that are part of the access package. In addition, users can now search for access packages using additional criteria like the name, description, and resources, all in the name of efficiency and end user experience. And last up, for our GA announcements today, we have Azure Key Vault configure key rotation policy governance. So there is an important thing to note here, there is an additional cost per scheduled key rotation. So using Azure Policy Service, you can now govern the key lifecycle and ensure that all cryptographic software and hardware security modules, HSM keys, within your Azure Key Vault are configured to undergo regular rotation, adhering to your organization's specific security standards. So if you're using Key Vault and you're required to rotate your keys, as you probably should, have a look, plan how that might be effective and useful for you, and yeah, get it deployed. I'll make it sound that easy. Okay, right, I am going to have to whiz through these stuff, and it will not do it justice, because this is probably one of the standout announcements that we've had in a really, really long time. So first of all, straight out the blocks, public preview, Microsoft Entra Internet Access. Completely new concept maybe to some of you from a Microsoft perspective, not a new concept in the world of network security. So there are two big updates in this space. So I'm going to talk about internet access first, which, like it says, it's an identity-centric secure web gateway, SWG, and it protects access to Microsoft 365 apps and enables best-in-class security and visibility, along with faster and more seamless access to Microsoft 365 apps. You get access to our dedicated Microsoft backbone connectivity across the world, including those undersea cables, which, don't worry, I didn't implement. And you can also leverage and extend conditional access capabilities, which is the real amazing thing here, and protect your organization against data exfiltration and token theft, and also gain more detailed insight into your network traffic, including the original user source IP, which is huge. It's huge. So sometimes that can be obfuscated. So now you'll be able to see that real source IP for the user. Now, this is actually a fairly large product announcement that's fairly fairly complex and maybe a new concept to you. I know I've had to learn a lot about networking. So I would recommend having a look. We are going to be doing a deep dive session on this and private access, so stay tuned for that. Have a look at our documentation. There is some great tech accelerator videos on YouTube that gives you a deep dive into this. But make sure once you've kind of got your head around it, you need to make sure that you engage with the likes of your network team, SecOps, help desk, and of course, end user compute, because these all have things that are related to users' devices. In the future, be integrated seamlessly in Windows 11, but it does need an agent to start with. So yeah, definitely have a read and look into those. The other flavor of this, I'm sure I'll get told off for calling it two flavors, but Microsoft Entra Private Access has gone to public preview. So this identity-centric zero trust network access solution secures access to private apps and resources. So now any user, wherever they are, could quickly and easily connect to any private app, no matter which protocol is being used across hybrid and multi-cloud environments, private networks and data centers from any device and any network. So that sounds like a lot, because it is, and it's very impressive. So top use cases are putting MFA in front of any private app like RDP and having segmented per app access to any on-prem non-web application, which is just wild. Like, it's amazing. It's a testament to zero trust from a network access and identity perspective, because it's identity centric, but doesn't completely ignore the limitations of that with the way that the world is connected now and how users are expected to access their apps from anywhere. So just to compare the two, so as a reminder, Microsoft Entra Internet Access is to secure access to all internet, SaaS and M365 apps and protect against malicious internet traffic with an identity-centric secure web gateway, whereas Microsoft Entra Private Access is a secure access to all private apps and resources for users anywhere with an identity-centric zero trust network access. I definitely have probably not done it justice. It's very impressive. So have a look at our additional reading, those Tech Accelerator videos, and keep an eye out for our technical deep dives coming in the next couple of months. Moving away from zero trust, well, actually, technically not moving away from zero trust, moving away from network access, we've got a public preview announcement for sponsorship fields for B2B users. This was something that's highly requested by a lot of my large enterprise customers, especially for those that are highly regulated, where, yes, you want to allow external collaboration and you don't want to create internal accounts. However, because you don't have things like a manager field to leverage B2B to its full extent, you need to have a sponsor associated with that to be held accountable for that person's access. And so this sponsorship field is on the user object and refers to the person or a group who invited the guest user to the organization. So you can use that field to track, like I said, who is accountable. So you can invite a guest user and add a sponsor. And then I think if I click again, yeah, then when you go into a user object as well, you can go in and add one and also review who's the previewer, who's the sponsor in their job information. So it's great for auditing and holding people accountable, especially if you're trying to do things like clear up inactivity or wonder why somebody's got access to something. Also helps with help desk investigation if a guest account isn't working. The other way, it gives you somebody, they call your help desk, gives you somebody internally to speak to and verify that account is still required. Got another great better together story from Microsoft here. So we now have mobile application management for Windows using Microsoft Edge in public preview. So Windows MAM extends MAM application configuration and protection capabilities to Edge on Windows, including the admin experience, policy, lifecycle management, client for apps, and Windows Defender health check. So it is enforced by a CA before allowing resource access on Windows, which ensures only MAM protected Edge can access CA protected resources. So this isn't as simple as going to a preview part of the portal. You do actually need to opt in. So there is a sign up form. I think we can put the link in somewhere through Magic in the comments. So yeah, if this is something that you're really interested in testing out, fill out the form, join the public preview, provide us with your feedback. Would love to hear from you. Next up, we've got strictly enforced location policies using continuous access evaluation. CAE has been a real game changer because we have to react as quickly as we can, and adversaries are getting smarter, working harder, and finding cheaper ways to attack or try and exfiltrate data. And so this allows tenant admins to investigate IP addresses seen by resource providers to use CAE to promptly invalidate those tokens that violate those location policies. So you can configure a CA location-based policy. And again, you can scope it to target users to test out first. Then you have a look at the workbook to identify these IP addresses that should be added to your name location. And then you rinse and repeat. So you can keep going through your groups and adding those IPs until strictly enforced location policies are applied across all your target user base. And of course, this can be a high impacting change. So that's why we recommend it being phased. Make sure that you're reviewing it appropriately, and of course your help desk know just in case you accidentally lock somebody out. We have another interesting, I love an API, API-driven inbound provisioning, stand public preview. So this enables you to use an automation tool for choice when you're kind of retrieving workforce data for any system of record for provisioning into Microsoft Entra ID and connected on-prem Active Directory domains. So you've got full control as an IT admin to how that data is processed and transformed with those relative attribute mappings. So once the workforce data is available in Microsoft Entra ID, like I said with dynamic groups, it's not magic. We do need to know what we're looking at first. Then admins can configure the appropriate join and move or leave of business processes using Microsoft Entra ID Governance Lifecycle workflows. What a lovely segue from our previous GA announcement. So we've got three main scenarios here. So the first one is enabling IT teams to import HR data extracts using any automation tool. So these could be gross flat files, CSV files, but also things like SQL staging tables that are commonly used in enterprise integration scenarios. Scenario two, this is the ability to use ISVs enable ISVs to build direct integration with Azure AD. So because it's API driven, there's inbound provisioning. HR ISVs can actually now ship native synchronization experiences, so that changes in that HR system, which the majority of the time should be the rightful source of truth, automatically flow into Azure AD and connected on-prem Active Directory domains.
Yep. And just to add a little bit on this, Grace, as well, super quick, like this was a big ask from a lot of organizations that, they were not in the, or they did not have the product for the HR system that we natively integrated. So this is the next step, right? You can't have any type of sources of HR systems like CSV files and programmatically provision those users through this API driven. And as Antonio Russo is mentioning on YouTube as well, this is a great integration. Just like you said, let's imagine provisioning those users in Azure AD or Microsoft Entra ID, and then just lifecycle workflows on top of it, right? For the joiner, mover, lever scenarios. If you want to have a little bit of, samples on this, we have PowerShell samples and Logic App samples on the documentation for the public preview that you can try today if you want to see how this actually works.
And the last scenario, which I just want to give a shout out to, is enabling system integrators to build more connectors to system of record. So now partners can build custom HR connectors to meet different integration requirements around data flow for systems of record to Azure AD. That's per what Jorge was saying. So it's pretty good. Someone's asked, what licenses do you need to have API-driven inbound provisioning? Don't know off the top of my head. We will get that answer back to you. Thank you very much. Good question, though. Your landing page for Microsoft Entra ID protection. It's lovely. You should go and try it. Have a look here. There's a nice demo. So you can have a look at the number of attacks that were blocked, number of users protected, and this beautiful new diagram that shows an inbound and outbound journey of the attack types, for example, brute force, and how they were blocked. So yeah, lovely, easy to consume. Have a look at the public preview. It's lovely. That's not my technical feedback, but it is lovely. For Microsoft Entra ID Governance, got a couple of public preview updates here. So you can now add sponsors as approvers in Entitlement Management, which is fantastic. So as we mentioned before, sponsors for guest users can be approvers for access packages, which were requested by a guest user. This is huge for delegating access to an appropriate person in terms of making sure that that guest, the sponsor, definitely is accountable for access to, again, be in line with least privileged access. Also got the ability now in public preview to manage guest user lifecycle. So you can govern the state of a user's lifecycle so that when a guest user is set as governed based on the EM tenant settings, their account will be deleted or disabled in specific days after their last access package assignment expires. I know a lot of customers that were manually creating scripts and had batch things to remove or disable sign in, remove the, reset the password if the group membership's expired. This takes all that pain away. If you start to manage your entitlements with Entitlement Management, then through ID Governance lifecycle for guest users, it's all seamlessly integrated. We also have guest user inactive insights. So from this screen capture, you can see here in the Identity Governance portal, in the preview section, you get these really nice pie charts and overview of guest accounts that have been inactive and the length of time in which they've been inactive for compared to the percentage of guest users. And, oh my gosh, did I do it? Oh, I did it. I did it. I've got 5 hidden slides. I'm not surprised. We rehearsed this really well, didn't we?
Yes, with 2 minutes left here. So that was amazing. Yeah. We have a question from Adrian and Adrian Paredes, which is a good friend of mine. So for scenario 1, which is coming back to, the importing of the data, the API-driven inbound provisioning, is the data type agnostic or just limited to CSV or SQL? I know some of the documentation mentions as well flat files. I'm not sure exactly what the extent of all of the data can be, Adrian, but we can definitely follow up on that.
Yeah, so I'm just having a look now. So we've got flat files, CSV files, SQL staging tables. So you can use automation tools like PowerShell or Logic Apps, but yeah, I don't have the extensive list to hand. but yeah, we can definitely find out and respond.
Great. Any other questions from the group? Any other questions that can be answered in the 1 minute that we have left? Grace, you made it. What an amazing way to go through all of this. You deserve a good sip of water. Probably you're thirsty after all of that, but I appreciate it. So it's time for us to close. Thank you so much for everybody who joined. Please, a quick reminder, follow us on the 425 show on LinkedIn to stay on top of all of the updates. We do this every week. We try to do this some other shows as well. If you want to watch previous recordings, we have them uploaded on YouTube. There will be some more shows coming. Some of the questions here, it is recorded. Yes, you will find it in our page. From our side, I think that's all. Grace, any closing comments?
Thank you for tuning in. We're going to do these specifically every month in terms of updates for Microsoft Entra ID. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Do you think it went well? Do you think it was awful? It's fine. I can take the feedback. We'd love to make sure that this content and the format is appropriate for you as the audience. So if you want to see more demos, more information about, specific call outs, product licensing, you name it, just let us know. We're open to feedback. We want to make this a success and provide timely updates for you with real life examples of our innovations for GA and public preview. So yeah, please provide us with the feedback. Thank you for listening. Tune in next month. And thank you to our producers and my co-hosts.
Yes, thank you, Mark and Bailey in the back end. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.